Hare Krishna. The mind can make us give up the wonderful for the dreadful. Suppose we are at a buffet dinner, there is a big feast, and there is one item, say a delicious sweet, and there is one item which is cooked very poorly. It doesn't just taste tasteless, it tastes terrible. Now, if naturally we will go towards the item that is delicious and want to get that. Now if somebody just comes along and drags us away from that item and pushes us towards the tasteless item, then we will fight back, we will resist. And that person puts that tasteless, that terrible tasting item, not just tasteless, that terrible tasting item into our mouth, into our plate, and was still into our mouth, we will actually fight back. What is this? I don't want to eat it. It's terrible. So now, if somebody would do this externally to us, it is outrageous, and we would not accept it at all. We would rebel against it. But when the mind does that internally to us, we unfortunately go along with it without much of a protest. Often without even a whimper of protest. How is that? Because the mind, the mind acts subtly. It's not that the mind physically drags us, but it drags us by misdirecting our perception, by distorting our perception. So the Bhagavad Gita in 18.37 and 38 describes the nature of sattvic and rajasic pleasures. So it describes that pleasure in the mode of goodness is yattadagre vishamiva pariname amritopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. Krishna says that it tastes like poison in the beginning, but it tastes like nectar in the end. So now there is initial poison in it, but afterwards there is a lot of nectar. And on contrast, Krishna says the pleasure in the mode of passion, 18.38, he states that Vishaya Indriya Sanyogad Yattadagre Amritopamam Pariname Vishamiva Tatsukham Raja Samsmitam. So he says the pleasure that comes by the contact of the senses with the sense object, Vishaya Indriya Sanyogad Yattadagre Amritopamam, it tastes like nectar in the beginning, but Pariname Vishamiva, but it is like poison in the end. So that which is like nectar in the beginning but poison in the end, that is happiness in the mode of passion. So there is initial nectar, but afterwards there is poison. Now the mind actually distorts our perception by focusing our attention only on the initial pleasure in the case of passionate pleasures, and only on the poison, on the initial poison in the case of enlightened pleasures, in the case of sattvic pleasures, pleasures in goodness. So in this way, by misleading us, what the mind does is, it drags us away from sattvic pleasures and goodness by saying that, oh, this is not good, this doesn't taste good, this is terrible, and takes us towards passionate pleasure. Say, this is very good, this is very good. But actually, if we study scripture, then we will understand that the mind is misleading us. It's not misleading us by force, it is by coercion, but by deception. So unlike some person dragging us from one buffet item to another, the mind is taking us away by deception, but still we shouldn't let ourselves be deceived. And the way we avoid, so the mind can make us give up the wonderful, actually the pleasures in goodness and the pleasures beyond goodness. There is the pleasures of devotion, pleasures of bhakti. Even if there is a little bit poison, afterwards they are so wonderful. When we chant the holy names, when we take darshan of the deities, when we associate with devotees, when we study scripture, when we do services, there is so much meaning, there is so much fulfillment, there is so much inner growth and substance that we experience. And we are all moving towards lasting happiness thereby. We are gaining self-mastery, we are gaining inner clarity, we are gaining purity, we are becoming better human beings. So actually the life of devotional service is a wonderful life. As compared to that, the life spent in chasing sensory pleasures is a dreadful life. But the mind misleads us to give up the wonderful for the dreadful. And if you are not to be deceived by the mind, then we need to study scripture regularly. And by not just studying scripture, by remembering scripture, especially remembering it when the mind starts casting its spell, starts putting us under illusion, we can counter it by the truth that is given in scripture. And when the mind starts saying, that is good, enjoy that. Oh, that enjoyable part is only initial, after that it's miserable, I will not go there. In that way, we can avoid giving up the wonderful for the dreadful, but rather we can persevere in the wonderful and relish the wonderful life of bhakti culminating in love for Krishna eternally. Thank you. Hare.